Chapter 1. The Journalist. The newsroom had fallen into that peculiar silence that settles over forgotten places when the world has gone to sleep. It was in this silence that Elena Torres discovered the file. She had been working for hours, folded into herself before the trembling light of her laptop, while the fluorescent bulbs above her moaned like tired ghosts. The last reporters at La Voz de Panama had already dispersed into the city's restless night. Only the cleaning crew lingered somewhere in the distance, their mops whispering across tile floors as though scrubbing away the sins of the day. Her desk, a small island of disorder, was overrun with coffee cups, ink-stained printouts, and a stack of notebooks whose pages curled like old memories. Yet it was the austere glow of the screen that held her prisoner. The Panama Papers database stretched before her like an endless jungle of digital foliage, every spreadsheet a thicket of numbers, every email a vine curling toward some hidden truth. Elena's eyes stung. Still, she pressed forward, guided by the strange intuition she had cultivated over years of chasing stories that preferred to remain untold. She had learned that corruption does not shout, it murmurs. Then she saw it. The name rose from the blur of data with the inevitability of an omen. Vladimir Putin. Dictator, autocrat. A man whose shadow had hung over Russia for more than 20 years. His fortune drifted through diplomatic circles as rumor, as myth, as something too vast and too dark to hold in the hand. Now it glimmered on her screen with the cold clarity of fact. Elena leaned back. For a moment she felt her own pulse shaking the air around her. She reached for her pen and wrote the name as though she were inscribing a curse. She circled it twice. But as she followed the trail deeper into the labyrinth, another name appeared, one she recognized with the shock of witnessing a familiar face in an unexpected dream. Ronald Frump. She stopped breathing. Frump, the sitting president of the United States. The ink of his public speeches had barely dried on the pages of history, yet here he was, buried in the same offshore maze. Elena forced herself to recheck the documents, to cross-reference each account and subsidiary. Each confirmation tightened around her like an invisible rope. There was no mistake. The shell companies traced themselves back to Frump's old real estate empire, slipping through Panamanian law firms that specialized in erasing footprints, dissolving into the far islands of Seychelles and Cyprus. And entwined with them, like roots from the same poison tree, lay the oligarchs and state contractors loyal to Putnik. Two men who stood on opposing sides of the world stage. Two titans whose public lives were sculpted from conflict. Yet here they were, united in the same clandestine architecture, their fortunes tucked away in the shadows where truth seldom survives. Elena drew closer to the screen. Her hands trembled as she whispered into the empty room, as though speaking aloud might shatter the illusion. Dios mío, they are in this together. A chill swept over her. She knew the fate of journalists who strayed too close to the hidden machinery of the powerful. Cars that skidded inexplicably off quiet roads. Sudden illnesses that struck like lightning. Reputations shredded by invisible hands. The newsroom clock ticked past midnight with the slow patience of destiny. Elena saved her notes to an encrypted drive and slipped the flash stick into her pocket as though it were a relic she had stolen from a forbidden temple. She understood that what she held was larger than her newspaper, larger than Panama. It belonged to the world, and the world would not be gentle with her for discovering it. Her phone vibrated on the desk. A single message from an unknown number. Stop digging. Elena stared at the screen. Her heartbeat began to echo in her ears, louder than the hum of servers rising from the basement. She looked around. The cleaning crew had vanished. The silence had thickened, gaining weight. The air conditioner muttered, with an unease she now felt in her own bones. She closed her laptop, slid it into her bag, and rose from her chair. Her footsteps carried her urgently toward the exit. When she pushed through the glass doors at the front of the building, she caught sight of her own reflection in the lobby window. Behind that reflection stood two men across the street. Their suits were too dark, their posture too still, their watchfulness unmistakable. The night wrapped around her like a damp shroud. Even in the heavy Panamanian humidity, she felt herself shiver. The story was larger than she had imagined, and somewhere in the vast darkness outside the newsroom, forces already knew she had uncovered it.